live from New York. It's Saturday. It is Wednesday afternoon. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. What?
So smooth.
This is Tuesday. This is Wednesday. This is Paintings of Peoria. Thank you so much for coming back today. Today we have Marie Dillard on with us.
What up?
I'm so excited to have you here and talk to you. First of all, you're hilarious. Second of all, you're so talented.
You're so kind.
Oh, stop. Thank you.
Stop.
All right, so let's get into it. So, you are a music educator turned entrepreneur.
Yes.
You specialize in private vocal and stage performance instruction.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you also offer private songwriting workshops to members of the greater Peoria area.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching. I just thought about this the other day. I think I'm coming up on 10 years of teaching, which feels like a long time. It also feels like a very short time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a great 10 years, and I'm hoping to teach until I, can't form good sentences anymore. That is my goal. I would like to always be teaching. One of my favorite things that I do is help people who have been told they'll never be able to sing to learn to sing for the first time, or people who've been told they're tone deaf. I love to teach them to sing for the first time, so that's one of my great passions.
That's beautiful. So it was voice that you started teaching 10 years ago?
Yes.
And now do you teach guitar too? Or do you primarily teach vocals?
I pass guitar students on to my talented husband, Mr. Brandon Newberry. My full list is in lessons is voice, stage performance, songwriting, ear training, which is for those described as tone deaf.
Okay.
Which is a whole thing. And I also offer lessons in music business, which is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, you came on to the art of business, the business of art.
Yes.
We had the conference, which we actually interviewed Jonathan Romaine last week.
Awesome.
I don't know if these are being released in order, but and just kind of talked about that a little bit. And you were the focus group speaker for the musicians in the area, and that was one of our actually first official meetings. I think, because I'd heard of you, and
yes,
and then I met you, and I was like, oh my god, this is
that was our first chat.
Yeah, our first official chat. And you actually you were talking about kind of it's the business of art, so pricing and making a living doing it. There's this whole starting artist concept. At what point would you consider yourself to have been able to subvert that narrative and jump into being an artist full time?
I long had the habit of just talking about the world I want to exist as if it already exists, because that's how you change
the world.
And that's how you change how other people talk about your environment. So as soon as I knew that there was maybe a small void of someone just saying that and championing that idea without backing down over a long period of time, as soon as I recognized that is a space that I could fill, jumped right in there. And when I really believe that a statement is true, I have I will be shouting that from the rooftops. And that's something I really believe in.
Yeah.
That artists deserve to be paid. They deserve not only to survive, but to thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. So your whole, you've got a lot of things, so I won't say your whole thing is anything, but one of your, I guess, big talking points is that's a motto, a mantra that you really stand behind in music and in the world is that, yes, artists deserve to be paid for their work. We don't need to have this narrative that artists have to starve. They can also actually live very well. You don't have to be, touring every week to be able to survive and do what you love and follow your heart and follow what you're passionate for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. You have a I guess was there ever really a journey that put you to a point of being able to take that leap into your mantra of that, or was it always kind of innately part of your verbiage?
Maybe there was a point of necessity because I moved out of my parents' home in maybe an atypical fashion. And so paying all of my expenses for the first time in my life made getting paid for music feel much more important.
Yes.
As anyone knows who has supported themselves for any amount of time. And I lost a couple friends along the way who didn't understand that because they weren't supporting themselves yet. And they felt like I was acting kind of better then because I was living independently. But what was happening is I was working a lot because I had to pay for the independence. Right. So when things get real. And I've always been someone who's been enthusiastic about finding a way forward rather than just abandoning what makes you happy. So I definitely had to recognize that unpaid work in music was not sustainable for me personally. So that was maybe born a little bit out of necessity, but also just out of recognizing how right that is. Right. That artists should be able to pay their bills because what they create is literally what makes other people happy. We wake up and listen to music. We hear music when we go to the freaking pharmacy. Everywhere in life we hear music. Everywhere in life we see art. Yeah. Everywhere in life we enjoy video, streaming services with thousands, millions of hours of creations by artists. Everything that makes life feel full of joy usually comes from art. Yeah. So the idea that we want to get all of that good feeling while the artist who gave us those feelings wonders how they're going to eat dinner, that doesn't add up to a sustainable community.
I agree entirely. Why do you think, I didn't put this on the list, but why do you think that is? Like, where do you think that came from?
It is an interesting question because if you go far enough back, artists were valued so highly that they were given residencies in homes of great wealth, and they were doted upon because their art was valued so highly. I'm not asking for that personally. I'm looking for a middle ground.
But if anybody has any,
yes. So maybe an art historian could, or a professor of art history could answer that question with a little more confidence than me. But I would speculate on eras like the Great Depression, when everything becomes about necessity instead of the decorations of life, which is, that's why we love art. It decorates our lives that would otherwise be quite plain. Yeah. And so when you go through eras of financial insecurity, art is often the first thing to go out the window. We noticed this during COVID. Art is often, almost always, the first thing to go out the window. And so we need to recognize that and give big shout outs to the funds that are offered in modern times of financial stress to working artists, and everyone who recognizes how important that is. But we also, now that we've recognized it, we need to plan for future times of financial stress to not forget about our artists. And I don't have a good solution, but to brainstorm together what good solutions could be.
Yeah. Oh, that was very eloquent. Good job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
you're a queen.
So you have a band called Sarah and the Underground.
Yes.
And you began that band in 2016.
That sounds right.
And you are a soul folk trio.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means, the members, how it formed, your origin story, all that good stuff?
2016, I believe it was February. That's right. Because our band is 1 month older than our marriage.
Okay.
And oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Speak of the devil, maybe? Who knows?
It could be.
Oh.
Or it's probably a spit. It's my gynecologist. No, I don't. I apologize for that.
This is a good shout out to go. Everybody, get your annual checkups. Make sure that everything
Get
is
it done
good.
in Peoria.
Get it done in Peoria.
Great gynecology care in here.
Yeah, I go to Peoria Women's Health.
Wonderful.
Jamie King, she's a doll. Super funny.
Cool.
Anyway, so origin story of Sarah and the Underground.
Thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome.
Starting us fresh there. Oh, what a twist. Origin story. So February 2016, I deciding on how much to share.
Share all of it.
Yeah. I was dating someone deeply involved in the Peoria comedy scene.
Okay.
One of our Peoria arts sects of our community.
Good enunciation there.
Sects, yes.
Good diction.
And we were just hanging out, and I was on Facebook, and I saw my now husband announce that he was leaving his current band, which still exists and performs frequently in Peoria. The name Brainchild, one of the best bands to ever come out of Peoria. Go check them out. So I saw that he announced that for personal reasons. He was making that choice. Okay. And I hopped on that, and I believe I posted a comment on the post that said just dibs with the and then I immediately messaged him to follow up and say, like, by the way, I'm super serious about that. No pressure. I understand. Like, if it doesn't work, it's fine. Da, 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 da.
Right.
And he said yes, and I couldn't believe it because Brandon Newberry is so talented, and I was really in my mind just like shooting my shot for the best bass player I could imagine having. So it was awesome that he said yes. We immediately added our friend Bob Kelly on drums, who many will recognize from the Alice and Hannah band currently. Bob was with us for a really fun 3 months, and then we parted ways professionally, but not personally. We love Bob. Then we began to work with Nick Fairley, who is still our drummer and auxiliary percussionist to this day. He also happens to have a beautiful singing voice. And we've been together ever since. About a month after we formed, I found myself needing to break up with a certain comedian because the truth was I had fallen in love with my bass player, and that was complicated, but really important. Really important. I had never broken up with someone for someone else before, because I knew that's such a stupid thing to do unless you know you're gonna stay with that person. And I knew Brandon was my person, like, no question. I remember sitting in the Steak and Fries in Morton, like, yeah, just like matter of fact. So it was really important to make that choice out front and get ahead of the romance.
Yeah.
And just recognize that we were both interested in being on the same page.
Yeah.
So that was a lovely, lovely time.
Love story
exciting, too. Yeah. And during that time, we did some awesome things, like we went to the Chicago Law. I'm losing the actual words for the institute right now, but the Chicago Law Center, I believe it. Anyways, educational, institute focusing on law, and played one of our songs called Bad Man for an event focusing on the story that inspired the song, which is from the Netflix docuseries called Making a Murderer. So we were able to...
your song?
I did not write a song for that series, although I'm still putting that out there. Directors of Making a Murderer. If you got another season coming up, let me know.
The fact that this is going to totally make that happen.
It's definitely...
Because we're speaking our perspective into existence. We're speaking it.
That's right.
Anyway.
We're making it real. But the show inspired that song in me. Okay. And it found its way to the lawyer of the young man represented in that series. And he has referred to it as the unofficial anthem of making a murder, or in other words, the anthem of the fight to free Brendan Dassey. And that is a huge honor for me as the songwriter, and it was also a huge honor to go to Chicago Law and open this special event with our song, to pull art into the storytelling of this person's suffering, because art is what brings things home. And one of the coolest things that day was there was a Q&A with a panel at the end of like lawyers and different specialists, and they brought up the song and lyrics of the song. Poor people lose all the time. Poor people do all the time. Part of that is a quote directly from Stephen Avery, another gentleman featured in the docuseries. And they talked about that lyric and discussed like the legal ramification, like how the reality in the legal system that poor people are the ones doing time for their violations of the law. Everyone violates the law. Poor people are the ones in jail. And it was so surreal to hear my art used to describe something that affects people on such a deep and personal level. And that's just such a great example of what we lose when we lose art, is we lose a major aspect of our storytelling abilities.
Yeah.
So that was a very cool experience, and shortly after that, Brandon found out he needed emergency brain surgery.
Wow.
That was 5 months of dating.
Wow.
And we kind of consider like that surgery day as our initial wedding day, because I was his surgery companion. And that when you've been through a surgery with someone, that you witness so many intimate moments and personal moments and struggles. And so everything got real surgery day for sure. And but the band never broke up, which I'm proud to say. Yeah. I have a feeling we'll never break up, since 2/3 of us are married. That's the goal. Yeah. And we're just making lots of music. And then very soon after Nick joined us, we realized all three of us were private music teachers.
Okay.
So we formed what we refer to as a teaching collective called the Underground School of Sound. You heard what I offer earlier. Brandon offers piano, bass, beginner guitar, ukulele, as well as songwriting, studio recording, and producing. And then our drummer, Nick, offers drums, auxiliary percussion, and piano as well.
What is auxiliary percussion?
Auxiliary percussion is any percussion instrument that's not a drum kit.
Okay.
So like a single item, like a tambourine, would be auxiliary percussion, unless it was attached to a drum kit. Well, I guess I would ask Nick about that.
That's fair. And if somebody wanted to take lessons from, did you say the Underground?
The Underground School of Sound.
How would they find you? Where can they get a hold of you?
The easiest way would be through our Sarah and the Underground Facebook page, because all three of us receive all of those messages.
Okay.
You can also use, on Facebook, you can use the hashtag Underground School of Sound, hashtag Underground School of Sound, and it'll pull up a bunch of posts for you to explore about what we do with our students, and it will likely pull up our personal Facebook pages for you as well.
Cool. You are such a strong advocate for artists, musicians, women, people to speak their voice, have a voice, and you create so many spaces here in Peoria with where people can be raw and vulnerable. For example, the Listening Room, traveling open mics that happens on Tuesdays, and it rotates. You can follow the Listening Room.
Yes.
On Facebook, and then you also have the Women's Cooperative, the music.
Peoria Music Community Women's Cooperative.
You said it best. What was kind of your, and in all of these spaces, it's, how am I trying? All of these spaces are so powerfully, everyone is so powerfully connected, and there's no bullshit in terms of if you are going to be your most authentic self, you will be welcomed and you will be loved, and it is a space that you can really truly show up as you are. What was your, this is kind of like a multi-part question, but what inspired you to start Peoria Music Community Women's Cooperative? And then what kind of, in your own story, in finding your voice, helped you to be where you are today? What does that journey look like for you?
Well, forming the co-op, the idea came to me because I was preparing several years ago to present for the first time at the Business Art Conference, and preparing for to lead my first roundtable discussion on booking gigs in Peoria. And I formed a practice roundtable to prepare, and it just happened to be all musicians who were women, who were my friends. And as we were together helping me practice, leading the discussion, it was just cool. It was just cool that we were all women, and that we were all together, and that we were all talking about music business in a really serious way, not like a, kind of way, but like with pens in hand. And it was a really good like injection of energy and motivation to be in the room with people you knew were on the same page, and that you knew loved music as much as you did, and that you knew shared a large portion of your perspective.
Yeah.
So I said that day, like, what would you think about like doing this like more regular, like forming a group and meeting like once a quarter or once a month? And everyone was really into it. But we all have great ideas all the time. I have so many good ideas that I can't seem to find the energy or the time or the focus for. But after a couple years, I just pulled the trigger on this one. And I guess I would, today's not about me teaching anyone, but I would give that advice to anyone has a really good idea and is waiting for the perfect execution. Some things you really do need to wait to launch, like a restaurant.
Right.
You need to wait until you have your sign,
Right.
It needs to look fully formed. But other things you can kind of just pull the Band-Aid on and say like, let's see it's gonna be okay no matter what. Let's just see what happens. And this was one of those things. So one day, not about a year ago, I think we're coming up on our year anniversary, I was just like, it's like the Lion King, it is time. And I just formed a Facebook group, invited all the women who were in the Peoria Music Community group to the Peoria Music Community Women's Cooperative, and scheduled our first meeting. And here we are. And again, that encouragement, that the most important element was that all of us be together in the same room.
Yeah.
Everything else was gonna fall in line if it wasn't fully formed to begin with. So that's how that came to be. But my major motivation for that is just, and I guess this answers your question about finding my voice, is a lot of what I do is caring for my younger self. And my younger self deserved a women's music cooperative. Or at least she really needed it.
Yeah.
She really needed it. She could have used it. Partly, of course, for the support we provide each other and the education opportunities and connections, but also so much just to have one place in your hometown where you are in a room full of people who largely share your perspective, where the prerequisite is respect and the prerequisite is acceptance and the prerequisite is welcoming vibes as opposed to icy vibes. Which can be hard to put in intelligent terms, but are so real.
Right.
They're so real, and they contribute to this ongoing sense of competition, which doesn't lift any of us up. It tears us down, and it keeps us from helping each other find work, which as soon as we start doing, you see the ripples start to swell into waves.
Yeah.
So my younger self really could have used it. It wasn't easy to show up in Peoria with the women I was finding at the time who were not interested in having new women joining their friend circles, because of the sense of competition and scarcity, the scarcity mindset. So that was hard to make friends at first. So I really like the idea of saying, welcome to Peoria. Come find us if you want to make a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
Because we'll do that on purpose.
Yeah.
Welcome to Peoria.
Yeah. That's great. I'm going to cough and we're going to cut it out.
So sweet.
Thank you. I feel so much better. Now I can actually laugh without having it come out of me. Well, I would like to say that, so I just came, this is on a personal note, to Peoria a few years ago and just got in the music community back in February, and I cannot even imagine what it would have been like had you not developed these places, these groups where in this community that is so welcoming. I only know the warmth that you and everything that you've done bring, and it honestly, as soon as I came into this scene, it felt like a hug. It was like walking home, coming home. I
love to hear that.
Yeah, so thank you very much for all that you've done, for all of your, for all that you've overcome to get to this point where you're like, hey, how's it going? wanna be awesome, badass women together, and so thank you.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of want to go back and put an asterisk, because as soon as you make a statement when I showed up, the women, they were terrible. People are gonna say are you talking about Robin Crow? Are you talking about Judy Page? I'm like, no, those women are so awesome, and I respect how long they were performing before I ever knew I could even do this.
Yeah.
And how long they've been working in Peoria. Those women, I couldn't find.
Right.
I couldn't find them. So it's like a dual problem.
Right.
You can't find very many women because they were receiving so little stage time that they were all at their other jobs, right?
Yeah.
So you can't find the women that you'd love to connect with, and the ones you could find who were getting that stage time were so afraid of losing what little stage time they had that they weren't interested in connecting.
Right.
And those are both mindsets that I understand.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it wasn't really lonely for a long time. And then when you can't connect with women, that means you're only connecting with men, and then that gives women imaginary fodder to say oh, everything contributes to the stories we tell ourselves unless we're actively crossing the bridge and allowing the other person to show us who they are instead of defining who they are with our inner narrative.
Right. Well, and I think you've done just such a great job of just, like you said, putting everyone in this space that's easily accessible so that whenever people are searching, it's not a difficult search to find and say, where do I find musicians? Where do I find women who do music? Where do I find
yes,
insert? And then it's all right there.
I accidentally fall into the trap sometimes of kind of speaking where were the women? But also, we didn't have social media. Like, you can't find someone if you don't know they exist. So that is a major reason the cooperative is so helpful, is it's one location where you can go find not just one woman to connect with, but 20 or 30. There are almost 175 members in our Facebook group.
That's amazing.
Close to 100 who have attended in person. That's so, they are here.
Yeah.
We're here.
Right.
We just couldn't find each other for such a long time. Now we can.
Connecting the dots. I love it. Do you want to kind of wrap everything by speaking of your new business, Hang 10 Calm Rooms?
Yes, Hang 10 Calm Rooms. I'm so proud of this. I am in the role of assistant executioner. That didn't sound right. Oh, please don't associate that with Hang 10 Calm Rooms. I'm in the role of assistant on this. I'm so proud of my husband, Brandon Newberry, who has launched this new business. And this soft opening took place just a weekend or two ago. With 2 events, one of which was with the Autism Collective at the Peoria Riverfront Museum, and the second of which was the Clean Water Celebration at the Peoria Civic Center. Hang 10 Calm Rooms was born out of another event called Sensory Ignite, which was born out of another event called Ignite Peoria, which is put on every year by arts partners who also produce the Business of Art. Ignite Peoria is the main summer event. Sensory Ignite was born as Brandon and I were driving away from Ignite Peoria, having loaded out, just like, we've checked off this year. Awesome, it was great. And Brandon has a younger brother with autism, and we just remarked to each other, like, wouldn't it be cool if Josh could, like, if there's some way that Josh could attend something like this without getting overstimulated. And from that came the idea of Sensory Ignite, which is a secluded, quiet area of Ignite Peoria that serves as partly a resource fair for parents of kids and adults with special needs, parents and caregivers, but also as a sensory sensitive public festival.
Okay.
So where someone can participate in festival activities and the festival environment and spirit and whatever the festival is dedicated to in a low volume area, in a low lighting area, in a place with sensory activities, in a place with an adult changing room, which is a very rare provision these days, which will hopefully change in the future. So it's a sensory sensitive area, and Hang 10 Calm Rooms is essentially a traveling Sensory Ignite without the resource fair. So we will be joining resource fairs and other types of community events with a calm, safe space for anyone, not just with special needs, but anyone who is overstimulated, generalized anxiety, PTSD, anyone who needs a calm space to just have like 5 or 10. Hang 10. Hang. Do you get it?
Yes, good.
So just to hang out for 10 minutes and regulate their system so that instead of having to leave to feel better, they can have that moment and rejoin the activities and keep enjoying the event and keep learning what the hosts of the event are hoping that they'll learn and take home.
That's incredible. That's so important. That's such a spectacular idea, and I'm so glad that you're doing that. I'm so glad that you guys had the foresight to create that, like within the festivities.
Yes.
Because everyone wants to be able to, not everyone, but if you want to be able to stay and then return, it sure would be a lot easier to just go into one of the Hang 10 rooms for 10 and then
Yes. So it not only serves the guests, but it serves the people putting on the event because it keeps people there for longer.
Yeah.
Because they're able to regulate intermittently.
Right.
And I plan on using it. I'm so glad that I work there.
It's like
chill out
for a while.
Time.
Sometimes it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Even just sometimes it's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Everything you do is so amazing. Everything that you've done in Peoria is so incredible. Everything that you continue to do, because you keep doing more and getting more involved and bringing more people in. And that's incredible. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you so much for telling all of us everything that you do and giving me this opportunity to talk to you one-on-one and really like hear more about Sarah and what you can do and everything that you do. And yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Raina. I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for spreading the powerful stories of our community.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye.